Wednesday, December 11th. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight, Worms 2 Open Warfare. Or Worms Open Warfare 2.
Let's do this.
Well, I'll be brief about this since I assume any new listeners at least tried to listen to yesterday. But just in case, if you're looking for our New York Anime Festival coverage, you'll probably want to listen tomorrow, Wednesday night, which is the night we talk about anime and manga and all that stuff.
Yep, and hence, since it was an anime convention, technically, I think it actually was primarily an anime convention. We're going to talk about it on Wednesday.
However, we can talk a little bit about what gaming there was to be had at the New York Anime Festival, since we usually, after a con, we'll always do like the Tuesday after the con, we'll talk about the gaming going on there, because, you know, Otakon has their crazy gaming room, and Katsucon has the best gaming room of any con ever, and PAX, well, we haven't been to yet, but I can only imagine.
Gaming paradise, if I'm to be believed. If
you are to be believed.
Yes, exactly. All right. So, at the New York Anime Festival, there was some gaming going on. I mean, there were some gaming events, like the video game Match Game.
Well, first off, next door to the New York Anime Festival, in what I can only assume was a startling coincidence, the World Championship of Magic the Gathering was happening.
Money the Wasting.
And, it's funny, you know, you walk into the con, and there's this giant Seraph Angel statue. You're like, wow, is that for the Anime Con? Oh, it's for the Magic Tournament.
Yeah, I didn't even realize. And that was apparently the World Championship of Magic.
Yeah, I went in there and walked around.
And it wasn't very crowded.
It was pretty crowded.
It was crowded, but it wasn't as crowded as you would imagine.
When did you go in there?
I only went down there like when I first got, before you even there.
Yeah, it was going on later. I walked in. It was pretty mighty crowded.
Oh, all right. But anyway, yeah, money the wasting. So, in the New York Anime Festival, the gaming situation. Well, first off, there were a few dealers selling, of course, the gaming merchandise and the imported game stuff. You know, typical of what you have at every other anime con in the Northeast.
Though now that Emily has the DS, I think the DS import games are of much more interest to us as a crew.
Well, at least to her, because she can read the Japanese.
Yeah, and she can go, oh man, you guys don't know what you're missing.
And even though there's a whole bunch of games which don't really require, much reading of Japanese and the DS is region-free, I'm generally disinterested in those games because of the exorbitant price you must pay to obtain them.
Oh, but ROMs, anyway.
Yeah, I don't do that. Okay.
Yes, you do. You just don't have a card yet. You wait every day for a card to come out that'll do that.
There supposedly is a card, and there's funny things to say about how people are selling that card, but I'm not going to talk about that now because I have to spend 10 minutes finding the link again. But
all right, anyway.
Anyway, so the first thing that was notable about the gaming at the con was it was like Devil May Cry 4, OMG. Now, I played Devil May Cry 1 for the PS2? I think, right? Yeah?
Yeah, we played that at the Capstone.
Yeah, I played that in college, basically, when it first came out on someone else's PS2.
Now, I remember we all went over there, and, they're like, check it out, I got Devil May Cry. And for like a half hour...
A much hyped game.
For like a half hour, that was the best game I'd ever played, because I'd jump up, and then in slow motion, while falling back down, I would shoot at a skeleton.
It wasn't so much that he fell down in slow motion, it's that... he didn't really slow down time. It's just he fell really slowly. Like he could sort of levitate in the air and would fall to the ground. It would take him like he'd jump up high instantly. And then it would take him like a good 30 seconds before he landed on the ground again, as long as you held down the jump button.
It was really cool.
Yeah, and you could shoot while you were up in the air. So I'd jump up in the air where a bad guy couldn't hit me, and then shoot until the bad guy died. And that was fun times.
I didn't really play the game beyond that, so I can't speak as to its quality.
I think I played like the first half of a level, maybe, and then I got tired of it because it was the same thing over and over again, and it was kind of easy. I'm pretty sure it gets harder later, but I was done with it at that point.
Well, we were in college. We had to go play some D&D instead.
Exactly. So, Devil May Cry 4, which
Counter-Strike.
I am pretty sure, in fact, I'm 100% sure, it is not a game you can currently purchase anywhere, was playable at the New York Anime Festival. You had to wait in line and go in this little booth, and then you could play it on one of their little TVs there that, and it was surrounded with a black curtain, so you couldn't, get, screenshots or photos or anything. I didn't go in and play it because I really didn't care, but other people went and played it, and they said it wasn't bad. They kind of liked it.
We probably could have. We had those, solid gold professional badges. We probably could have just gotten right to the front of the line.
But I had no desire to do so.
Well,
it's like if you want, sure, playing a game, before its release is pretty cool, but I have to want to play it, or you have to give me some incentive. I just really didn't care about Devil May Cry at all. But anyway... There was also a video game room which was one of the saddest video game rooms ever. The video game room was being run by New York Tokyo, the people who ran the New York Tokyo Music Festival.
Did we ever do a show about that?
I don't know, maybe.
Because that was kind of awesome, but at the same time, it was also kind of a bait and switch. And it was like, come see all this awesome J-pop, oh my god, Japanese music. And then we got there, and we got to see, Boa do a small set, and that was awesome. Then we got to see some other, like, J-pop artists do something. And then it turned into, like, this 4-hour-long boring techno party.
Yeah. And
then we had to sleep on the streets of New York City.
Only because we didn't get back to the train station
Because
in
we
time.
sucked.
Because we sucked. We don't suck anymore. We'll never make a mistake like that again. But
God.
regardless, this video game room, right? It had a few good things and mostly bad things, right?
Well,
First of all, it was really, really tiny. Incredibly tiny. And for a con where, at least on Saturday, where it was crazy crowded, the video game room in proportion was not large enough at all. I mean, damn, was it small.
I think it was helped by the
smaller than my
fact-
bedroom.
I think it was helped by the fact it was literally smaller than my bedroom.
Yes.
But I think what really hurt it or helped it was that I don't think most people at the con knew it was there.
Well, it was hidden in like the back hallway. I didn't.
No,
even...
there was a bunch of stuff. There was a Japanese art like kimono exhibit. And
Yeah, I
there
think
was
that's where the art show was. Wasn't the art show also in there?
I don't know, but
It doesn't matter because I didn't even know that kimono exhibit was there, and I never went to it.
I went over to it. I peeked in. I had a drink, so they wouldn't let me in. I didn't come back later.
I only found out about it today when I was looking at the map of the con that was sitting in the living room.
And there was the I think manga library or something
The
over
Anime
there
Next
too.
manga library, which I've gone through before, which is pretty much the best and I think the first manga library.
But yeah, I think it worked out because honestly, I mean, I heard a kid as we were leaving the con on Sundays. He was walking out and he saw the video game room and he said, "Oh man, there's video games here."
Yeah, pretty much. That's what happens when you put him in a back hallway like
But
that.
at the same time, if it was such a small room, that was probably for the best because there was never really a line to get in, and you could just walk in and in a reasonably short amount of time play a game.
I heard from people that it was smelly on Friday, but
It was not smelly on Saturday or Sunday. I can say that.
I went in once just to look around with Anon from Apple Geeks. We looked around and then we walked out. And basically what was going on in there is they did have a good selection of games. And some of the good things they had were in the middle of the room were 2 tables, and they had DSs like tied down to the tables with games in them. So you could play like that, and that was pretty cool.
They had Cooking Mama.
They had signs above each television saying which game it was. You didn't need to like go over and look real closely at each one. You could just kind of look around the room.
I get the impression that it was super high quality. It was just too small.
Yeah, there was very few games, and on one wall they had a projector where they were doing all tournaments and such. I forget what I think they were doing a Guilty Gear or something when I was in there.
Well, when I walked in, there were 3 projectors pointed at that wall.
There was I think there may have been 3 pointed at the wall, but I think only one was on, taking up the whole
I think
wall.
it speaks well of Nintendo that to this day, probably the most popular game in that room was Smash Brothers Melee.
Yeah, that's going to change in a couple months.
Yep.
But anyway, the one thing that I noticed that was especially high quality about the room there was that there was a guy who was sort of emceeing the tournaments, and he was quite skilled in the ways of the MC.
Isn't that what we offered to do at Katsucon last year and then just didn't?
Yeah, I think he's sort of like I guess New York Tokyo must have people with that kind of talent, because that seems like the kind of thing they would have.
Let's make sure Katsucon has that going this year because they kind of need it.
But anyway, other than that, it was just a tiny little game room with a good assortment of games ranging from, the hardcore to the not hardcore, to the DS, to the 360, to the PS3 and the Wii. And
Smash Brothers to Cooking Mama 2.
Yep, and it was there, and I guess it was good at getting, maybe 50 people could have been.
I got to say, when I walked in, they had
50 people would have been a crowd. So, it kept a handful of people out of the rest of the con, I guess.
They had Trauma Center 2 in there. And I'm just walking around.
We own Trauma Center.
No, but I see a kid, and he picks it up, and he's playing through some surgery. I don't know which one it was. I haven't played the game yet. But this was inexplicably and unexpectedly hilarious. So he starts playing, right? And the dog's like, do this, do this, do this. And then he looks around, and then he just starts slashing wildly with everything he can until the patient died as fast as possible. Then he laughed and walked away.
He just took the scalpel and went, cutty.
It was like, so he was careful. He was like, think. And then he walked away going, hee, after the guy died.
All right. Sick kid.
It was a little kid, too. He was like 14.
What is this world coming to?
What, when a 14-year-old doctor murders a patient in a video game?
Yeah.
How many Sims or simoleons have you murdered in the course of your life?
Not on purpose.
You bulldozed more than one church or school to make more high-density residential blocks.
Maybe, but I've also summoned Godzilla only so that I could get rid of him with my soldiers.
You have also sent that one lone horseman around the world only to die lonely and afraid in the Arctic wastes as you were trying to make your way to some other continent.
No. Alright, anyway. That reminds me of that video where they keep making the soldier walk into the wall.
That was a good video. I think it was the thing of the day.
I think it was.
So, in the news, speaking of soldiers, that game that I waited 10 years for and then promptly got sick of. Well,
What game was that?
Team Fortress 2.
Oh, right, that one.
Well, Valve collects inordinate amounts of statistics from their games on Steam.
Well, I think what they did is they learned from doing their Valve survey, where the hardware survey.
That people really like to see statistics?
No, that they make a lot of money from that survey. Like, they have companies calling them up and asking them, who's using, are they using more NVIDIAs, more ATIs? Is this and that? Is this a popular thing? And that's valuable data to collect. And because of their Steam platform, they're pretty much the only ones who can collect it, on a wide. Because, think about it. Let's say someone like, I don't know, what's a recent popular PC game?
Well, you're saying PC games, because Microsoft can do a similar thing with Xbox Live if they want.
Yeah, but what are you going to survey? Everyone has an Xbox. They're all the same.
Yeah, well, you can survey...
We're talking about surveying PC hardware, So with, so Valve learned from surveying PC hardware that gathering data about games, about gamers and the way they play the games is valuable. And they've been collecting that since.
But anyway, they've released a big dump of a whole bunch of statistics from Team Fortress 2. And a lot of people are making a big deal about these, but I actually saw very few interesting or surprising things. I mean, they show, like, if you count the total percentage of time played, most people are scouts or engineers or soldiers, and then it drops down pretty steadily, and no one wants to play the medic.
Yeah, well, because those are the classes that are more sort of generally useful.
Points per hour, sniper, heavy spy, soldier, and then it's just down from there.
Yep.
Average kills per hour, heavy soldier, sniper, pyro. Well, I guess this isn't interesting at all either, but in terms of assists, the medic is number one, but that's because I think the medic gets points for healing in the assist whatever, but the pyro is pretty much the number two along with the heavy, and that kind of makes sense.
Because the
with their
pyro
splash
sets
damage.
people on fire, but then they die from something else.
Yep. And I go on and on. I mean, obviously, the scout gets the most captures per hour, with the pyro being number two. I capture the pyro more than anything.
I capture as the scout mostly because I scout practice, but I haven't played this game in like months.
Yeah, engineers live the longest, medics live the least, so I guess Gabe was very good in making his comic.
Yeah.
And it goes on and on.
This guy.
I want to point out one really interesting thing that kind of emerged from all this. People play Gravel Pit the most, which I don't understand because I don't like that map at all. And they, here it is.
I didn't play the game long enough to match the map names with the maps.
So the map, pretty much, if it's not 2 Fort, fuck you. But unless it's one of those kind of like weapons factory maps that was hacked into some custom server somewhere. But, percentages of wins by team color versus stalemates. Now, on 2 Fort, there's a tiny blue advantage, but, it's perfectly symmetrical, so you could obviously argue that, it's close enough. Except for the fact that if you count stalemates, red loses a lot. Red loses a lot on Team 4, on CTF 2 Fort and CP Well and TC Hydro and CP Granary.
Really? Is blue superior?
But yet on Dust Bowl and Gravel Pit, red kicks their ass. Dust Bowl is very clearly weighted toward red.
All right, now wait. Are these... See, it depends. Which maps are symmetrical, right?
Well, here's the thing. 2 Fort is perfectly symmetrical.
Right.
And yet, blue edges out like over the 50% mark winning. And then there's a wide band of stalemates, and then red comes in.
All right, so here's the question. Is that a psychological thing because of the color of blue versus the color of red? Which is probably a good explanation.
Both in terms of maybe dumb punk kids pick red the same way dumb punk kids pick scissors.
Or more a psychological thing like, blue is calming, and red is more, so you're shooting faster when you see a red guy, or it's easier to see a red guy.
It might be that it's easier to see a red guy.
It could be that. Or is it something where players who are better tend to pick blue because they, and there's something psychological in common
it's kind of weird
about color choice and also skill. So the type of person with high skill is also correlates heavily with the kind of person who picks blue.
It is weird because I have to admit, when I played Weapons Factory, I pretty much would always join the blue team unless I was prevented from doing so.
Yeah, I would always pick the green team no matter what. In
no
Team
green
Fortress,
team.
where there's red and blue, I know, that's why. When it's red and blue,
there was-
I use auto pick.
There was a green team in Quad CTF. That was great. It was just regular Quake 2 like Lithium CTF, but there were 4 teams and 4 flags and 4 bases. It got crazy.
Or could this be some sort of fluke thing? For example, let's say you join, there's a new server starts up, right? And you click auto join. Does that put you on blue first or on red first? Or is it random? Because if it says, for example, if it's blue first, that would make a lot of blue wins, wouldn't it?
Well, the other cool thing is they have heat maps of where people die the most.
Oh, that's good.
It's really cool to look at. And I just want to point out that on a granary, it's almost perfectly, identically symmetrical. And in the exact center is this epicenter of carnage.
Yeah, I would study those.
Also,
if I was still playing, I would study those maps, and I would
avoid those areas and shoot at those areas.
Avoid those areas and shoot at those areas. Pretty much.
Yeah, these stats are kind of cool. I wish they'd gathered more stats because I really want to see statistics in terms of, I don't know, very exact numbers as to how many stalemates there are and all that sort of thing. And people
I want
joining
to see
and quitting.
statistics and heat maps for Counter-Strike broken down by version from Beta 1 up.
Oh, man. Because when they first added the P90, that there was pretty much carnage everywhere.
And then when they toned down the P90,
there was still carnage everywhere.
half the people quit the game, and then 100 more people joined.
All right, so what do you got for me?
All right, so remember I talked about before there's Hokuto no Ken DS, which is sort of like Elite Beat Agents, but was manga plus, Elite Beat Agents action. Well, they're taking it a step further and a step better. Instead of making sort of interactive manga for the DS, one company is pretty much saying, you know what, let's just make manga for the DS straight up. Not even like interactive manga, just manga for the DS. I mean, you have the ability to bookmark and stuff like that, and maybe there might be a little bit of animation, who knows, whatever. But they're putting out Phoenix for the DS.
Damn, what, just like you buy a cartridge, it's Phoenix?
You buy cartridges and there's like 5 volumes of Phoenix on there.
At least one kid is going to buy that or get that thinking it's a game and going to be so pissed off.
Yeah, the DS cart packs in between 4 to 5 volumes of manga, but it's unknown which tales will be a part of the package, something, something, something.
It's kind of a cool idea.
Stylus scrolling and useful bookmark feature for short reads. Oh, and sound effects.
Sound effects, you say?
Sound effects.
I don't know how I feel about this. I feel like on one hand, I would never use something like this because I have the manga and it's much easier to read the book. And I guess if I wanted an e-reader, I would probably buy that Sony thing.
Yeah, DS really not the best for e-reader. I'm pretty much waiting off on e-readers until
there's something perfect.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, then again, there's 2 perfects.
Because I'm living fine without one.
There's 3 perfects. It kind of relates, I guess, now to the thing Scott and I just watched that we're probably going to talk about next Thursday.
Yeah.
But for me, perfect is 1. I just hit a button and the information is in my brain as though I had read it and I have the memory of reading it.
Okay, I'm not waiting that long.
Or 2, I can just see the words scrolling in front of my eyes with whatever translucency and color I want at any time.
That is also perfect, but I'll still buy something that's less than
3,
that.
glasses that do the same thing, so it doesn't have to be in my brain.
That's more realistic, but I would still
Or
buy something less than that.
If it was just, it felt like a book and it looked like a book, but I could just put a flashcard in the bottom and I could just flip the pages.
I would buy that too, but that's also more than what I'm willing to buy.
Yeah, and I don't know, beyond that,
I'm thinking just handheld device, doesn't hurt the eyes to look at it, good battery life,
that Sony
easy
thing's
to read,
getting close.
nice font.
I gotta say.
It's too big and it has other problems.
Yeah, but it's close. It's a lot closer than I expected we would be about now.
Yeah, it's still not close enough though. It's somewhere in between.
Because I'll say this, when I
a digital book and that.
Like even now, if I'm reading, because I have, Safari books online and I can read whatever tech books I want there, but I often find myself printing out a chapter and reading it somewhere when I could just be sitting in front of the computer reading it.
I'm thinking like iPhone with a special book screen or book screen mode. That's what I'm thinking for realism in the near future.
Things of the day. So we found this last week, and I didn't get a chance to talk about it since I think we put up the questions episode last Tuesday. So I think it's about time.
I thought it was last. No, maybe I don't remember.
Yeah, I think it was last Tuesday.
I don't remember.
Because otherwise, I think we would have talked about this. But there's a game, a little video game, made by Jason Rohrer for the Kokoromi's Gamma 256 event, which looks like it was some sort of video game contest. And there's a bunch of little games that people have made. And I think the rules were it had to be a Windows XP game that used the Xbox 360 controller.
Mm-hmm.
And people made a bunch of really weird little quirky games. They vary wildly, but this one in particular really stood out. Now, the main reason I want you all to see this game and play it is that every now and then people make the argument that video games aren't art, or that video games are somehow lower or different, or I contend that this game is effectively subjective and all that, high art. I think this game is proof beyond any reasonable doubt that video games as a medium are most definitely artistic.
Not only that, this is like maybe a masterpiece of art. I don't know. What does technically masterpiece mean? Because, I mean, it's not like, Picasso level, but it's like right below that.
Well, this is a game that's so simple, I almost feel like I don't want to ruin it by telling you about it.
No, but just the entire game is a metaphor. Every single thing in the game is a very obvious and very simple metaphor that is very poignant.
And yet the game is 100 pixels by 16 pixels.
Yep.
And you only get to play in 100 by 12 of those pixels.
Yep.
And I'd say play it more than once, you might discover some things. The game, I think, poignant.
The only controls in this game are you push any button to start the game, and then use up, down, left, and right. And make sure you try to use up, down, left, and right in every way you can, because you will learn more things.
And make sure that you have sound, because the music is very important to this.
Very important.
And, you can bring a person along or not in the game. You'll see that. I just want to point that out, because we didn't notice that at first. And
you can go right, you can go down, you can go up, you can go left.
Poignant and a little sad, but yet at the same time, a little inspirational.
Yeah.
Seriously, I'm not kidding. Check this out.
We're not making stuff up here.
And if you don't like this game, well, you're probably dead inside.
No, most definitely. Oh, and if you're dead inside, this will deaden you more inside. If such a thing is possible. All right. So I was having a tough time figuring out which of my many things of the day I've collected to use, but check this out, right? There's a guy on YouTube, and his YouTube name is Soda Popinski 75.
All right, he's already awesome because Soda Popinski's my man.
Soda Popinski, oh man. All right, so this dude, he made an arcade cabinet. Like, pieces of wood, TV, buttons, joystick, the whole works, right? But he made his arcade cabinet with a special theme, if you will. He made it with the Metroid themes. It looks, if there was such a thing as a Metroid arcade machine, this is pretty close to what it would look like. In fact, it's probably better than what the actual thing would look like. In this video, he sort of plays a Metroid remix while he, shows off his, arcade cabinet that he made. And it's sort of annoying, this video, because he keeps showing you, mostly this, mother brain sculpture he put in the side of it that has, a little lit up chamber sort of on the side of the cabinet. And it's sort of annoying because you get to see that more than you get to see the actual entire cabinet itself. But you do get to see the cabinet itself, and it's a YouTube video, so just pause it, whatever, and take a look. It's pretty cool. I wish I could make an arcade cabinet like that, because that'd be cool to have in the house if I had room next to my air hockey table.
Right. So, without further ado, tonight, what we're going to talk about, a game that I feel we should review, Worms 2 for the DS.
I think it's Worms 2 Open Warfare?
Yeah.
Is the technical name?
Yeah, we should probably look it up, but it's Worms 2.
Yeah. All right, let's just start off by saying that Worms is a game that's on many platforms. On the DS, there was Worms Open Warfare, and I think Worms 2 Open Warfare.
Now,
or Worms Open Warfare 2, I'm not sure.
Worms, the original Worms, just Worms for the Nintendo DS, is perhaps one of the most disappointing games ever made. In terms of what it should have been, what it could have been, what it was, and what it was something that you couldn't fucking play.
Okay, here we go. Worms Open Warfare, the first one, right, was for the DS and the PSP. And the DS Worms Open Warfare was terrible. Unplayable shit. Don't even buy it. Don't even look at it. Pretend it doesn't exist. All right? Worms Open Warfare 2 for the DS. Not bad. And that's the game we both bought.
Yeah, the Worms franchise is like 13 years old, and we're not really going to talk about that because it's kind of interesting, but not really. It's been released on like every platform.
Yeah, let's talk about what Worms is in general, right?
All right, it's one of those, I'd call it a Scorch-like.
Well, Worms a little different from Scorch, right?
Oh, it is.
And it is a thing. Let's talk about Scorched Earth. We ever talked about Scorched Earth?
I don't know. We should probably do a show on that by itself, but back in the day, when PC gaming was in its infancy, there was a game called, I think, Tank Wars or Tanks. There's a lot of similar games.
There are many, many games. I mean, I played one on the old Mac that was called Cannon Fodder, and I know there's another game called Cannon Fodder, but I don't know what that game is like.
But all these games eventually culminated in perhaps the perfection of that game, and it was a game called Scorched Earth.
Mm-hmm.
You have little tanks, and you have money, you buy weapons, and you shoot at all the other little tanks. And this game is fucking legendary.
Oh, this game is amazing. And basically, the way these games work is that there's a map, a 2D map, and you're looking at it from the side. And tanks are positioned randomly or perhaps not randomly on the map. And there's hills and there's terrain and whatever. And you control, your tank doesn't really move so much, and you can control the angle of your tank's gun like it's a piece of artillery. So the angle you can control either, 180 degrees of motion. It can either fire straight left, straight right, straight up, or anywhere in between. You can't fire down, though, because you're a tank. You can't really shoot below your treads. That doesn't work. And then you adjust the level of power with which you are going to shoot. So you can shoot with full power, which pretty much would make it a straight shot, or you can shoot with less power, which sort of make an arcing shot. It would shoot and then it would lose speed and energy, and it would sort of fall to the ground, and gravity would, take control. And the idea was to manipulate the angle and the power of your shots to hit the other tanks. And you sort of had to it was like artillery. You shoot, you shot too far, lower the power. Okay, that was too close, lower the angle.
Oh shit, he's got a beat on me, I gotta move. Oh, I knocked the ground out from under him. Oh, he's got a parachute. He's got a deflector shield. That's okay, I got a nuke.
You start to throw in all sorts of weapons and items and abilities.
Funky bomb.
Yeah, suddenly the game gets crazy, go nuts. And when you include the extra strategy of manipulating the terrain of the game, creating more terrain, eliminating terrain, because a lot of it would be like, there's two guys, there's a hill in the way. It's who can shoot over the hill accurately. Okay, what do I just destroy the hill? Then I shoot you. That's what these games come down to, and they're pretty fun.
Use a riot bomb, put someone in a little depression, then fill it with napalm.
Oh, that's the best. Well, maybe not the best, but one of the best.
Now, this game is great. And Worms is on the surface very similar to this game, but definitely on the surface. It's a similar game, but instead of having tanks, little worms. And instead of shooting, nuclear weapons and bombs and napalm and all these things, you shoot buffaloes of lies and Uzis.
Holy hand grenades and sheep and super sheep.
And also bazookas.
Donkeys. The bazooka is the default weapon. The grenade is also the default weapon.
I think the buffalo of lies is my favorite weapon in any game ever, just for the name.
I kind of like the buffalo of lies. It's not bad. Yeah. And you have all these different weapons. And some of the weapons are actually other things like rope and teleporters and jetpacks to let you move around. You can actually, basically the way it works is on your turn, one of your worms is activated, and you can move that worm for some specified amount of time, and you can jump and move left and right, and you can even do a backflip to jump up instead of sideways. And then, at any point, you can use some of your weapons, right? And you have a whole bunch of weapons. And some weapons, like, say, the jetpack or the rope, you can use them, and your turn won't end when you use them. So you can jetpack and then use another weapon right after that on the same turn. But other weapons, like the bazooka or grenade or pretty much anything that does damage, is going to end your turn after you use it. So if I shoot my bazooka, I shoot it, and maybe I hit you, maybe I don't. And then the game might give me like 5 seconds to like move around. So maybe if I want to like drop a stick of dynamite, I can drop the stick of dynamite on the ground because you really can't throw it, and then run away before it kills me because it drops right next to me.
So, if Scorched Earth was a game of accurate shooting and weapon selection, this is much more a game of platforming and positioning.
Yeah, it's sort of like what versus Mario in a way. It's like on your turn, you get to Mario it up, but it also weapons, and you sort of have to have the skill of jumping, the skill of positioning, the skill of navigating terrain, and the skill of utilizing various equipment to help you navigate terrain. and get yourself in a good offensive position, do as much damage using a weapon, and all the weapons, even the really powerful ones, take some amount of skill to use, and you have to know which one is best for the situation.
Except the donkey. The donkey requires 0 skill.
Some of them require more skill than others. The donkey requires a tiny bit of skill.
It doesn't require a tiny bit of skill. It requires at least the some section of your prefrontal cortex to be intact.
Yeah, but that's skill in a way. The boomerang, however, it requires a great deal more skill than the donkey. And you use a weapon if you want, which you probably should, and then you try to get into a defensive position, and then you continue, and you just keep everyone takes turns until someone wins by killing all the other guys' worms.
Now this game, I mean, nominally there's a single player, and you can play it to get good at the game, but this game is basically nothing unless all your friends buy it and you play it together.
Yeah, I mean, there is a way you can play the multiplayer with single cart mode.
It sucks.
It's good for introducing someone to the game. It's good for, I got nothing better to do right now, let's play some worms. But really it sucks because it's random, first of all. It makes a random shitty map, limited weapon selection, limited customizability of the multiplayer mode, and the person who owns the cartridge or is using the cartridge always goes first, which is a big advantage, especially in a 2-player game.
Yeah, let's talk about the customizability a bit, because
you can customize everything.
I mean, you name all your worms, you name your team, you make your flag. My flag is somewhat distinctive.
My flag, I'm still drawing my flag.
Yeah, my flag is something distinctive, and Scott's is like a quarter of a boo.
Yeah, I got to draw the rest of that boo.
And you pick what color your worms are, what dance they do. There's so much stuff in this game, and you make your own little team, and you go.
Every Worms game has had that, but this Worms game continues that proud tradition of.
It looks like it's got hot seat too, but I haven't tried it.
Oh, does it have hot seat?
Because it looks like I could make more than one human opponent in a non-multi-cart, like non-multiplayer game.
Anyway, if you have multi-cart multiplayer or perhaps hot seat, I haven't tested it. Well, with some reviewers we are, right?
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, because we're so awesome that
you can have a fully customized multiplayer game, and the way this works is you make a scheme in this sort of the scheme editor for all the rules of your particular Worms game, and you can set pretty much any rule. You can say worms can move, worms can't move. After shooting, you get this many seconds to move around. Before shooting, you get this many seconds to move around.
These weapons are available, and these other weapons are available at this time to get this much ammo and this much stuff.
You could set it to be like, okay, on the first turn, everyone only has airstrikes, and you get this many of them, and then on the third turn, you get this many, bazooka shots, and on the fifth turn, you can change everything to make exactly the kind of game you want to play. You can make it crazy weapons. You can make it only melee weapons.
Now, the coolest thing is that you set all this up and you save all these presets. And then you can sit around and, hey, you want to play the blah, blah, blah preset? Yeah, let's go.
The game comes with a few presets, but some of them are not so good.
Yeah. Even better, you can pretty much make any freaking terrain you want. It has a fantastic terrain editor.
Yeah, the terrain editor is a little, any terrain editor is a little weird and hard to get used to at first, but as soon as I figured it out, I was making terrain like a champ.
Yeah, the learning curve is steep, but when I say fantastic, I guess I should say that in the sense that you can do anything.
Anything is possible. And the other thing is the game doesn't really come with such a great selection of maps, so you pretty much have to make a map, which is good and bad. Because, well, you and all your friends, since you'll have the cartridge, will all be making maps, and you'll be able to, play maps with other people, and I think you can trade maps, but I'm not quite sure how. And, you can make really big maps that way, which provide the most interesting play experiences. But then again, you have to put in effort to make a map. If you just use random maps or auto-generated maps, it's going to be kind of boring and crappy.
Now, this is one of those special games where skill is a very large factor in who will win.
Yeah, for example, when I had beaten the single player and I played against people who, like Rim, who had barely played it, I pretty much won every time because I knew how to use all the weapons. I had practiced using all the weapons. I knew which ones to use in which situations, and I was better at navigating terrain, and it took me less time on my turn to do things, which allowed me to get into better positions, etc., etc.
But then, after playing against him a bunch, and then, actually starting to play the single player, the tide turned a bit, because now, Rim's really good with grenades.
Yeah, there's There is also a certain amount of randomness in the game.
Well, that's what I was getting at.
Yeah.
Skill is a big factor, but at the same time, like, one game, I totally hosed Scott, like, partly because he started in a really bad spot just randomly. And
I think that is the biggest random factor in the game is starting positions, especially on a map where it's possible to just fall in the water. Because, I mean, worms have health, right? Unlike, say, Scorched Earth. Well, Scorched Earth, you had health.
tanks had health.
Yeah,
and
but
health
not
affected them.
much.
Yes, they did. They had 100 health.
Yeah, but
and-
if you hit him with a direct hit with the baby, the normal shot, it killed him.
Yeah, but direct hits were kind of rare, especially when you also had shields and things. And
Yeah, well, you had to get the shields and things. That happens later. But basically, the worms have 100 health, and pretty much nothing does 100 damage. In order to do 100 damage, like, you have to get someone in a situation where you hit them with, like, a really powerful weapon, and they happen to be standing next to dangerous stuff, and after that stuff blows up, it knocks them into more dangerous stuff, which also blows up.
Or use the donkey.
Or they get a lot of falling damage.
Donkey.
Yeah, the donkey or the banana bomb will also do a lot of damage, but those are the only ones. So it's pretty much impossible to kill a worm in one shot, except knocking them into the water or off the map, sort of in a Smash Brothers style. So you'll see on a map where it's possible to be knocked into the water, the best strategy is pretty much get over directly next to your opponent, especially if they're near the edge of the map, and use like the dragon uppercut, which is a direct copy from Street Fighter. Sure you can, and just knock him in the water, and yeah, that's what everyone does.
This game, despite the fact, I mean, it's really skill based, but there's also a lot of randomness there. It's really fun, and it's not like you play a German board game and you realize it's random and you lose, and it's I lost because the game just fucked me and there's nothing I could have done. And your friends go, yep, that's how it goes. Ha ha. And this game is like, oh man, I totally just lost. Ha 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 ha.
Yeah, well, I think what makes the game so great is that no matter how many times you play it, right, in every single play of the game, especially a big multiplayer play, something crazy always happens at least once. Something absolutely crazy hilarious. Like, someone will throw a grenade and you know what they're trying to do. And then something totally unexpected happens, like a worm, gets blown, to the other side of the map, maybe, and then something crazy, like a crazy coincidence, like something falls out of the sky, and then something blows up in an unexpected way, and something moves in an unexpected way, and then, oh my god, it's hilarious.
Or I blow up the last worm. And I win. I killed him, but his body flies and just bounces off the ceiling and lands right next to my worm, and then blows up, and then kills me.
Every time a worm dies, he detonates himself, which makes a little tiny explosion. And most of the time, that doesn't have much of an effect. But if you kill someone who's right next to you or right next to one of your guys, that, especially if you're really close to the bottom of the map where, it could make a hole and drop you both in the water, yeah, that's pretty awesome. Pretty awesome.
So if you have friends who have DSs, you should buy as many copies of Worms 2 for the DS as you have friends in DSs.
Yeah.
At least up to 4.
I mean, there are lots of iterations of Worms for the PC and many other systems, and some of them are good and some of them are bad.
I think this is the best one only because of the ease of play with friends.
I definitely have to say that even if there are other editions of Worms, I haven't played every edition of Worms out there. There might be a better one, there might be not, who knows. But because this one is portable, and because it's on the DS, and because of the features inside of it, I definitely recommend it more highly than any of the other ones. Because Worms is sort of like the game that perfectly lends itself to portability. More than anything else. You whip it out, you can play a game in like 5 minutes, it's hilarious every time, and awesome. You want to say anything else?
I don't know, I think that kind of wraps it up.
It was kind of short.
That's fine. We can do a short episode. We'll have a lot of long episodes to come. I think tomorrow, when we talk about the festival, we'll go on for a bit.
Yep. All right, but yeah, Worms, and any other kind of Worms type game also. There are also some 3D Worms type games, but I don't know if you want to play those. I've played them a few times, and they're
The one for the GameCube.
yeah, kind of.
It's fun, but it's fun in this really frustrating way.
Yeah, not quite good. One more thing to say about Worms, though, is that there's a rope in Worms, which it's pretty much, it's like you shoot it, and it grabs onto a wall or ceiling.
That rope is great.
And you can lengthen or shorten the rope, and you can swing back and forth and, do both at the same time. And many games have tried to implement some sort of grappling hook mechanic. This game implements the grappling hook mechanic better than any game ever, even better than Bionic Commando. And every other 2D game that wants to have some sort of rope or hook should just copy Worms 2DS.
So, of course, just to remind you, tune in tomorrow night, Wednesday night, Geeknights Wednesdays, anime, manga, comics, and you'll hear all about the New York Anime Festival. We have some shout-outs to give. We met a lot of cool people at that con, and we'll probably talk a lot about the con and the pros and cons.
The pros and cons of the con.
Ha ha.
This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music.
Be sure to visit our website at www.frontrowcrew.com, where you'll find show notes, links, our awesome forum, a link to our Frapper map, and links to all the RSS feeds.
We say feeds plural because Geeknights airs 4 nights a week, covering 4 different brands of geekery. Mondays are science and technology. Tuesdays, we have video games, board games, and RPGs. Wednesdays are anime, manga, comic nights. And Thursdays are the catch-alls for various rants and tomfoolery.
You can send us feedback by email to geeknights@frontrowcrew.com, or you can send audio feedback via Audio. Just click the link that says Send Me an Audio on the right side of our website.
If you like what you hear, you can catch the last 100 episodes in iTunes or in your favorite podcatcher. For the complete archives, visit the website, which has everything.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike 2.5 license. This means you can do whatever you want with it as long as you give us credit, don't make money, and share it in kind. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.